Well, hello everybody. It's Danny back from Deepsouth Homestead for porch time. And guys, it is so foggy here this morning. Everything is soaking wet. Even the seat I'm sitting on outside here is wet. But that's the Deep South for you. We go through these phases 2 times a year, one in the spring and one in the fall, where the ambient temperatures don't match the ground temperatures, and then you get heat rising off the ground and cold coming in from the top, or vice versa, and it creates this heavy fog system that we get, and it gets bad. I mean, sometimes you can't see your hand in front of your face, it's so bad. And you know, a lot of people call it a curse, but sometimes it's a blessing, because when you've been in a big of a drought as we've been in, any moisture like this, there's water dripping off the leaves everywhere right now. Any moisture we get in the ground and on our crops and stuff like this is a blessing to us when we go through these foggy times like this, because to be honest with you, this is kind of my way of looking at it, but I kind of feel like that this might have been what it was like in the Garden of Eden when God made the Garden of Eden, because the ground was watered from above and below and everything. There was no rain. I think it was just like maybe a dew in the morning, and the sun never really penetrated like it does now. And the effects of radiation on human life and all this kind of stuff, I just don't think ever happens. But it just kind of, mornings like this is when I used to go squirrel hunting all the time. And you'd sit there, and all of a sudden you'd hear the water just like hit the ground real hard. And those of you who squirrel hunt would know what I'm talking about. And you look up, and a squirrel just jumped from one limb to another, and all the water off that limb just hit the ground all of a sudden. And it kind of helps you to be able to, hunt better when you did that. And I deer hunted a lot during it. It was a little bit difficult to deer hunt because a deer can walk right up on you and you never hear him coming. Where in deer season, I like for it to be dry because I can hear them walking in the leaves while they're coming. But this is the first year I don't have greens up healthy and pretty. Mine are they're only like 1.5 inches high, and they've been planted for months. And it stayed so dry for so long, and we've gotten some rains now, and everything's getting watered well, but for some reason, they're all stunted back, and they're not growing. Even the deer are walking around in them and not eating them because they're just so tiny. They're only like 1.5 inches tall, and usually you put a turnip seed in the ground, and in no time that thing is up and big old plant, and you usually having to pull them and thin them out. Not happening this year, which is going to lead into where I'm going. Now the ryegrass for the cows, yeah, it's doing pretty good. I've let them into it for 3 or 4 hours in the morning, take them back out, and then here in probably another couple of days, I'll just take them out of it for probably a week or so and fertilize it and give it, a chance to get back up and get another foothold before I put them back in it again. But the high tunnels are blowing and going with the weather we're having. They are amazing. I'm wanting to do a high tunnel update and show you what we got: cabbages in the high tunnel and we got cabbages out in the field. Now we went through here. Oh, I don't know. It's back. A lot of y'all sent me a message and asked me how was we doing through all the tornadoes we had this past week. And I said, well, we just got rain out of it. We didn't get nothing else. We didn't get no bad weather or nothing like that. But the lightning wasn't here, but it was probably 5 miles from us. It was an electrical storms all night long. It just kept training, like 5 miles from here. And my cabbages outside were little bitty plants. After that storm, they're big old plants. Now they're still not as healthy as the ones in the high tunnels are. But I want to show you the broccoli in the high tunnel. I want to show you the rutabagas. I want to show you the tomatoes we're growing in there. I want to show you all this stuff that we're doing in the high tunnels in a particular video. And if you're interested in that, you can leave a comment down below and say, hey man, I would be interested in seeing that, because I'm telling you, high tunnels are the way of the future. Now, with that being said, this past week, I've been inundated with so much information from so many different angles I told Wanda, I said, I don't even know where to go. I don't even know where to start. One is, let me tell you what today is, the 3rd of December. I'm filming this on the 3rd of December because we have a full week coming up. And I'm just not going to have time to do a lot of video filming on those days. I want to give you an update. A lot of people have asked about what kind of information we've found out about the sign. We've 99% sure we've located the people who done it. It saddens us as to who it is. But you know, people go, well, it's a VPN, you can't run a VPN. That's not true. We ran the VPN that this was done with. It went through Ohio, Florida, and Indiana. No doubt, because with technology today, people think they can hide with computers, and so that's what happens when you get overconfident, is that you think you can't be caught. You know, what am I going to do? I went in, I prayed about it a lot. I mean, I really prayed about it a lot. And the Lord brought back a lot of things in my life. He said, remember when you signed up in the Navy SEALs and you were gung-ho, you were this and you were that, and then there come that day, you woke up in a hospital. You didn't know you was going to live or die. You were broke all to pieces. And you had to lay there for 2 weeks, strapped to a bed, couldn't move. Your body was in so much pain that every 4 hours you were hitting that button with your thumb, because they had a button on your thumb taped to the bed so in case you got in too much pain. And for 2 weeks you hit that Demerol button every 4 hours. And finally they flew a man in who did oil rig explosions, putting people back together. And this gentleman came in, looked at my case, and he put me back together. Now, I'm not perfectly put back together like I should have been. You know, one of my shoulders is an inch lower than the other one, you know, and one of my legs is half an inch shorter, or 3/4 inch shorter than the other one. I got lots of physical issues, yeah. And you know, he talked to me afterwards and explained things to me, and basically what my life would consist of once I got going. But then, after that, see, I got really angry with God because I didn't get to finish what I started. And God brought that back to my memory. And he said, remember how you stayed angry at me for all those years because you never got to finish pursuing everything you started? And I was like, yeah, so I remember that. And he said, but I was long-suffering with you. I could have just wrote you off right then and just let you go your merry way. But I didn't. I could have let you lay there and I could have let you die. But I didn't. He said, remember the day I came to you, the Spirit, and said, you know what? I need soldiers for the cross. And remember how you was like, Lord, I don't know what that means and all this kind of stuff. And then later, you gave in and you accepted the call to the ministry. And you were my spokesperson for years. And still are. And he said, you see the end results for being long-suffering? He said, when you pray every morning, I know what you pray. You pray for the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, and long-suffering. You pray for these things. And he said, so what are you going to do with this situation? He said, think about what you're going to do about this situation. And he says, I want you to remember some things. He says, remember what you asked, the request you made from me many years ago. When you accepted my call, you said, Lord, all I want to be able to do is help your people. I want the knowledge to be able to help your people. And the Lord said, because that's all you asked for, I gave you everything you want. I gave you wisdom beyond your years. You didn't ask for that. You just asked for the knowledge to help people. But I've given you wisdom. But now with that wisdom come a lot of hard knocks. You've had to suffer many things to gain that wisdom. And he says, and I've also given you the desires of your heart. Whatever you desired, I've always given to you. And he says, do you see the outcome of being long-suffering? And I sat and as I pondered over that, and I began to pray, because I lost a whole night's sleep over this. I didn't sleep all night. I just laid there and communed back and forth with the Spirit. Let the Spirit talk to me. Looked at scriptures. Psalms 119, 165. Great peace have they which love thy law, in that nothing shall offend them. And that's what I've always tried to live by, since I got my head on my shoulders right. All the verses I used to have memorized, so much of the Bible I have memorized, started coming back to me and started flooding me. Pray for those, I'll paraphrase it, who wrongfully use you and persecute you and things like that. Pray for those people. And the Lord said, these people were malicious in what they've done. So pray for them. And I laid there for hours. I said, Lord, I don't know what to pray for these people. I don't even like them. I said, because they've proven to be my enemy. And how do you pray for your enemy? I said, it saddens me that they are that way. And he said, just pray. So I just sat there in awe and quietness. And I let my mind just begin to commune with the Spirit. And I said, Lord, I've never wished harm on anybody. And I don't wish harm on anybody now. I said, but what I want out of this whole thing is what David said in the scriptures. Because see, you can never go wrong by quoting scripture back to God. I said, Lord, remember when you told David you would give him the desires of his heart? I said, and you told me you would give me the desires of my heart? And David looked at you and said, Lord, I pray that I will see my desire upon my enemies. And I said, Lord, I guess if I'm going to pray anything, it's that I see my desire upon my enemies. I said, and my desire right now is that your will would be done in this. Because if I go and do something personally myself, then I've overstepped my boundaries and I've overtaken the place of God. And I've said, this is what I want, without asking God, what's your will? So I said, Lord, I just want your will. That's my desire upon these people. I just want your will. And as I laid there for another hour or so, just communing back and forth with the Spirit, the Lord told me, he says, well, I'm very pleased. The Spirit basically spoke with me and communed with me through Scripture and said, I'm very pleased with your attitude. And I'll tell you why. First of all, one of them belongs to me. I'm like, wow. Okay. So one of these people belongs to the Lord. And the Lord said, because you asked for my will, I will be patient with them for an extended amount of time. And at the end of that time, because one of them belongs to me, I know how to deal with my own. And vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And guys, I don't know how to explain it. There was a peace that came over me that was unexplainable. The peace that passes all understanding came over me. And I knew at that moment that my decision on how to handle this was in the center of God's will. Now, what will actually become of anything, I have no way of knowing because I'm not God. But I do know that because I didn't retaliate like so many, and it just broke my heart reading all y'all's comments like, get them, Danny, get them, and all this kind of stuff. And 20 years ago, I would have done that. I'd have been at their doorsteps, But I'm not that person anymore. And now I'm more about, I've seen what God can do to people. Because I've had instances with other people in my life, and I said, Lord, I don't know how to deal with this. And He said, I'll take care of it. And look, it was bad. These people lost everything. And I didn't have anything to do with it. I just said, Lord, just whatever your will is, because I said, you know how to best deal with this situation. I don't want to interfere. Perhaps God has a reason for all this to bring one of these back to Him or something. I don't know. Maybe they've strayed too far off. I don't know. But I've learned in my number of years that if you let God handle something, He can do a much better job than we can. I have someone monitoring things for me to see if there's, anything else. I'm probably going to have my channel monitored. People who, make weird comments on my channel, stuff like this. Because, guys, the world that we're going into, people like Wanda and I who put our life out here, it puts us at risk when we do that. The other thing is the information that's coming in about what's going on with our world and, the fact that the Soviet Union just loaded up so many missiles on planes and flew them to China. China loaded up a bunch of them, flew them to Russia. Showing the coalition between the two of those. The fact that all the infrastructure in Ukraine now has been taken out. Those people are fixing to face a long, dark winter. It's going to be bad. A lot of people are probably going to die from the cold over there. And then the blackouts that this country is fixing to face. A lot of people's asked me my opinion on the Mississippi River going dry, the Euphrates River going dry. Well, God, let me tell you something, guys. We're in a global famine right now. Global drought, I'm sorry. Technically, it's classified as a global drought because there's rivers all over the whole world that's going dry. Now, yes, there's still going to be floods in some areas. There's going to be too much water. But as a whole, the globe is in a drought. We're in probably, from all the information I'm able to find out, we're probably in maybe the second year of it. Because rivers don't just go down overnight. It takes a long time for the water to come out of the ground everywhere and for the rivers to actually, filter back into those ground. It keeps coming out in order for you got to understand how all that works. And I don't have time to go into it. But with the intense radiation from the sun sucking up all this water and stuff like this out of things, if this continues for another, let me tell you this, it's projected to go for another 5 years. Okay? If it continues for another year in the United States and the Mississippi River continues to go down, then there's some things that will probably transpire. Grain won't be able to be taken up and down the Mississippi River from the food belt up in the central part of the United States up in there, the Missouri River, and all that area up in there won't be able to get the grain and get it down the river to get it to ports to be shipped. So if that happens, then what happens is the grain will have to be shipped by 18-wheelers. And if that takes place, well, with the price of diesel fuel and the quote-unquote shortages of diesel fuel and depth and all this kind of stuff that goes into the diesel trucks and all this kind of stuff, the prices of grain and food is going to go sky high. Now, I have a way of monitoring this. I have a friend who's involved in this. And I talk to him weekly about grain prices. And every week I ask him, I say, now, do I need to stock up on anything right now? And he tells me, this happens every week. If you want it, you better go ahead and get what you need right now, because I got another price increase this week. And this is every week he gets a price increase. So I'm like, okay, so if there's no grain shipped up and down the Mississippi River, and it has to all be shipped by truck somewhere, then there are specific laws that are put into place in our country that's been passed that says that in order to meet certain EPA specifications, there has to be ethanol put in gasoline, at a certain rate and amount. Now you can still get non-ethanol gas for using in lawnmowers and generators and stuff like this, or you can put it in your vehicles. It doesn't matter. But it's not. There has to be a certain percentage of the ethanol used according to the law. And if corn can't get up and down the Mississippi River, and this corn get to the facilities where it's needed to make ethanol to go into gas, then this is just after 1 year, but imagine 5 more years of this. That would mean that in order that somebody would have to start breaking the law if they didn't put ethanol in gas, and ethanol could not be shipped, which means that there would then become a shortage of gasoline, shortage of food, shortage of gasoline. These are things, and then on top of that, I've told you guys, watch certain states. I told you to watch Washington State. I've told you to watch Colorado. I told you to watch Texas. I told you to watch southwestern Missouri, southeastern Missouri, Kentucky, the western Appalachian chain, both Virginias, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. I can't go into detail about it. I just want you to watch these areas. Florida is another one. I want you to watch these, Las Vegas, California. Watch these places, because you're going to start seeing some events take place. And I get a lot of emails. Don't email me, because I'm not giving you any more information than what I give you here. People want to know, well, where's the safe place to move? We want to move. Where's the safest place to move? And I'm like, I don't know if there is a safe place. I mean, I battle with God over where I live. Because, I've got information that there's going to be a certain amount of water that's going to come in over the next X number of years. And I'm like, Lord, am I at an elevation that's safe? Do I need to move? If I do, where do I go? That there's not a nuclear plant somewhere close by that would give off, radiation or fallout or anything if something happened, or if it wouldn't be a target for the enemy to take out our nuclear power plants just like they've done in Ukraine. And then the fallout from it, because there's no water running to cool off the rods. And see, that's another thing that's bothering me about this Mississippi River going dry is the power plants up and down that thing. And if there's not enough water in that thing to pump and keep those rods in those nuclear facilities cooled off, you're looking at a disaster. And another Chernobyl. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, Lord, do I move? If I do, where do I go? Is there a such thing as a safe place? With the tornadic outbreaks that we're having, the weather anomalies that we're having, I mean, like last week when they had all this weather come through, Mark, I talked with Mark from Weatherman Plus, he told me what did he tell me, 25 or 28 tornadoes in Mississippi alone. That's unheard of. But that's what happens when you're going into a full-scale solar minimum system that's happening. And this is going to go on, guys, for a minimum of 5 more years. Probably could go 15, but I'm going to say 5 to 8 more years. And it's not going to get better. It's going to progressively get worse. You're going to see more heat than you've ever seen. You're going to see more cold than you've ever seen. Year without a summer. 1815, 1816 is when it actually come to fruition. Tambora went off. We've only had 2 major volcanic eruptions that we have records of that actually blown up into the ionosphere. Tambora was one of them in the northern hemisphere that actually, those of you who studied that about Tambora in the year without a summer know that hundreds of thousands of people in Europe died, tens of thousands in the United States died in the northern climates because we didn't have a summer that year. It stayed cold all year and nobody was able to raise food to survive on it. Many people actually just died because of starvation and chill factors and cold and things like this. They froze to death. And now we've had I want to say Tambora, but Tonga went off. Questionable as whether that was real, it really happened, because there is images that something went into the bottom of that thing and caused that to happen. But I'm not going to speculate on that. The simple fact is it happened. It doesn't matter how it happened, it happened. Well, Tonga went off and it blown up higher than Tambora did into the ionosphere. And it's in the southern hemisphere right now. And if you actually look at the data and the maps that track all this stuff from satellites, it's gradually covering the southern hemisphere, just like Tambora did in 1815. And it usually takes about a year for this stuff to get completely up there to block the sun out to the point where there's not enough UV rays to raise your food, because plants have to have a specific UV ray in order to produce abundantly, which I'm making me question these turnip greens out here now, because if it's not getting in here. But also it's going to block out the sun and the heat. And many places in the southern hemisphere will not be able to grow food, possibly in 2023 or maybe into 2024. But what we're facing now is even worse than that. The issue that we're facing now is that we have a binary system coming through our solar system. The computers don't actually know if it's going to be this spring or next spring. They thought possibly it'd be last spring, because that's one thing about AI. AI can't predict the future. It can project it, but it can't predict it. Because these solar systems are on elliptical courses, and they travel at specific rates, but there are things that can happen in outer space that slow them down or speed them up. And right now, what we've noticed is what's coming is being slowed down. And as a result, this thing's going to bring a debris field with it. There'll be some large meteors, there'll be some small meteors, but either one of those really doesn't bother me that bad, because, I mean, the odds of getting hit by one of those is slim, even though it is happening. They have California, you know, I've seen some things in Africa and other places on the continent where things have gotten hit, and people are actually getting hit. It's just insurance companies are not reporting it. But there's a dust field. Y'all have heard me talk about this dust before. There's a dust field coming. This dust is at the nanoparticle stage. And you know how it is when you get something in a pore in your skin? Young people experience this a lot. They get pimples on their face and stuff because dirt gets down in the pores of their skin and it gets infected. Well, that's kind of what we're going to be facing when this comes through. This stuff is at such micro particles, nanoparticles, that it can get into the pores of our skin, and many of us will get infections from that. And it probably won't be talked about widespread unless it gets in epidemic proportions. But what my point to you is, I want you to be aware if you start receiving problems with your skin and you start getting like infections on your skin that resembles a pimple, or when I was a kid, used to see people quite often get what was called a boil on them. And the old people would take 2 pieces of thread and they would open the core on the top of that thing and stick that thread on it and begin to twist it. And they would pull the core out of it because it will not heal unless you got the core out of it. And so we're looking at possibly some of these type things beginning to happen. And it probably won't be talked about by the media or anything like that unless it becomes in epidemic proportions. It'll probably be swept under the rug, but I'm just telling you guys because I want you to just pay attention when you see people or yourself, if you're outside a lot. And unlike me, today happens to be one of those days that it's not cold. And well, which hadn't had many cold days in the South here, but we have a few every now and then. But we're exposed to the elements when you hold your arms up, face and your arms and stuff like that. People wear short pants, no shoes, all this kind of stuff. Our face, our necks, and things. Just start paying attention to physical issues on those places of your bodies and other people's bodies. If you start seeing lots of sores on people and things like that, I don't really want to go into much more than that this week. It's just little things I want y'all to just be aware of. And we're going into a point in history where it's the latter days of an age. We know that, scripturally speaking, because of the events that's taking place around us, wars and rumors of wars and the alliance of different countries together. I'm still waiting. I'll tell you one I'm waiting on, okay? People ask me always, what do I think is next? What am I waiting on? I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I'm waiting on next. In the Bible, in the scriptures, it says that for sure for us to know that we're in the really last moments of the age, Damascus is going to be annihilated and destroyed. That's what I keep waiting on, because the Bible says that jackarals and wild animals will live there, but not people. In other words, it'll be completely annihilated. So I wouldn't live in Damascus, okay? The Bible says it's going to be wiped clean. And I don't know if it's through radiation, biological, dirty bombs. I don't know. I just know the Bible says that it won't be habitable. People just won't habit it. That's what I'm waiting on. I'm waiting on that, and I'm waiting on a peace treaty. Those are the two things that I feel like on the time schedule are the two next big events for me in my personal life to say, hey, man, we're there. You know, this thing could be over with really quick. You know, because we've had world wars before, and all the countries lined up with NATO, and then all these other countries line up, and we have war between. We've had that before. I don't pay a lot of attention to specific wars. I pay attention to coalitions, alignments of different nations. Israel, I watch Israel with a fine-tooth comb. Not to say that they're all God's people, but it's still a nation of Israel. And whatever goes on in Israel determines the Middle East. And right now, the Middle East is really unsettled. I mean, there's a talk of annihilation of a lot of countries in the Middle East right now. And I don't want to get into that, but it's going to be interesting to watch. So I'm watching Damascus. Just give you a heads up. I'm watching that, okay? And the other one I mentioned to you. I'm watching that one. Those are my two big things. For the peace treaty, if I see a peace treaty signed that's drawing all those nations together over there, and they're seeking peace, and I see Damascus get destroyed, I'm looking up, because my redemption is very near, okay? And you should do the same. Prepping and stocking up, if you haven't done that, if you don't have a lot of money, you're probably not going to get to where you need to be. Because food, we went the other day just to look. Didn't really buy anything much, just went to look. And I don't know how people buy groceries. I mean, I'm just being honest. After looking at the prices of things and how much they've shrunk them down, because see, we don't buy groceries. All we do is we remember the stuff several years ago. And we go in and look at something, a box of cereal is like, yeah, it's like, wow, that's little. And we go buy something and it says, that used to be a pound, we pick it up, well, now it's 12 ounces. And I'm like, and the price is like triple what it used to be. And I look at a gallon of milk, and I look at a loaf of bread, and things that people buy, you know, cheese and things like this, and I'm like, wow. I said, how can a person survive? What kind of income do you have to buy food? If that's all you can do is buy from a store, you almost have to be rich. And I told Wanda, I said, cheese was like $6 and $7 a pound. Eggs were like ungodly, and butter was the kind we get, has no BHTs and all that kind of stuff in it. Was like $6 a pound. And I told Wanda, I'm like, holy moly. I said, we just bought some here a few months ago and we didn't pay but $3 a pound for it. I said, how many do they have in the freezer up there? And she told me how many is up there. I said, you know what? Buy them all. I know it's a lot of money, but buy them all. Because when we come, if we had to come back in a month, it's probably going to be way more expensive, and we will end up spending more down the road we may not have. So, stocking up. Do yourself a favor, man. We're buying My Patriot Supply. We got a link down below. Me and Wanda, even though we provide all of our own food, I mean, we're not miracle workers. I mean, by no means. There's some things that we can't freeze dry honey. We can buy powdered honey, powdered peanut butter. We can buy lots of fruits and vegetables that are freeze dried and stuff like this that we can't freeze dry. We don't have any bananas, but we buy banana chips and pineapples. And we have pineapples, but we don't have enough to, you know what I'm saying, to do a lot with. We just eat ours fresh, and because that's about all we can raise right now. And things like strawberries and all this kind of stuff, we just buy freeze-dried. Now, we buy a few freeze-dried meals, but not many, Mostly just peanut butter, powdered peanut butter, all this kind of stuff. We buy salt. Get salt, for heaven's sakes. as much salt as you can afford, because salt is cheap right now. Unless not, we're buying Redmond's. Now Redmond's is a little expensive. We buy it in a 25-pound bag. It's a little bit expensive, but regular, just plain salt. Your body's got to have salt. You know, people go, "Oh, I'll make it without salt." No, you won't. You won't make it without salt, and you won't make it without sugar. Your brain's got to have sugar to work. Your body's got to have salt to work. Your body's got to have cholesterol to work. Your body's got to have all this kind of stuff to work and work efficiently, because when that time comes, which is already here really, your body's going to burn a ton more calories than it normally does, because you got to exert a lot more physical labor, and then stress on top of that is going to burn a lot more. So you got to really start taking into consideration, you need salt. Just go ahead and get your salt. Go ahead and get it. You can get it in 50-pound bags. It's cheap, you know. Unless you buy like me, I buy Redmond's for the house use. But now I buy just regular salt. You can get it from a feed store. You can get it online. You can get it from meat packing plants. I get a lot of mine from meat packing plants, just for the simple fact that if something happens, I have to salt my meat in order to be able to preserve my meat to eat. Then I want salt for that. So do yourself a favor. Just get it, keep it in a plastic tote in a cool, dry area, and it'll last for years. Salt just doesn't go bad unless it gets damp or wet. So, guys, I got to get off here. I've been going too long. I could just keep on going, you know, but I try to keep our videos within a certain length of time, and I keep going over, and and I'm sorry about that if I get to going too long, but I just want you guys to be prepared for what's coming. I love you. That's why I do this. And I know there's people out there that want me to shut down and want me to quit. That ain't going to happen until God tells me to stop. Now, yes, Danny gets in the flesh every so often, and I tell Wanda I'm not doing this anymore. And there'll be a period of days I won't make no videos. And Wanda will say, "Danny, people need to know." And I'm like, "Yes, Lord," because sometimes the Lord uses your wife to talk to you. And I try to be very understanding of that. So guys, I do love you. I do want the best for you. So give us a thumbs up so that YouTube will put us in the right algorithm, because our algorithm's going way down because we're not doing the popular thing. I'm not doing what's trending and stuff like this, and our algorithm gets thrown way out to the side. And I don't really care. You know, it doesn't make any difference to me. I hate it for y'all, because sometimes I give you some information I think that would be very beneficial, and I have tons of people that send me emails and go, "I thought you quit making videos. I hadn't gotten a notification from you in months." And that's because YouTube has thrown us out, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm having to play catch up now," and all this kind of stuff. And so that's what happens. And a lot of people forget about the ads. I have no control over the ads. YouTube either puts them in or they don't put them in. Sometimes I've looked at my videos and they have one every 5 minutes, and sometimes they have one every 15 minutes. I mean, who knows what they do. And I have no control over the content of the ads, so don't send me an email about that. YouTube's going to do what YouTube does. And right now, it's the very lucrative platform that I'm using. I'm working on freesteading right now, getting everything headed in that direction, because I know the people that's involved in it, and they're good people, they're honest people, and I'm trying to work everything over toward freesteading.com. I would encourage you. We've got the app now. Go over there, join up on freesteading.com. It's not hard. And they ask for information, yes, but so does all other platforms. It's the system. You can't do it. You can't get into nothing without following the system. You're not giving away nothing that any other platform doesn't already have, okay? They're not going to take your information and sell it. They could care less. They just want your information because that's what it takes to get into the platform. Because I know the people personally. And that's the direction we're heading in. So if all of a sudden I'm not on YouTube, for some reason they snatch me out of here, go to freesteading.com. I'll be over there. Guys, thank you. I love you. And we'll see you in the next video.